Episode 13, 2012. In this sad world of ours, sorrow comes to all, and to the young, it comes with the bitterest agony because it takes them unawares. The older have learned to ever expect it.
Now, on Inside the Buffalo...
Wait! Can't use that title. How about this? All right.
Folks, welcome back once again to another episode of Down and Drought. You know what the routine is. We're talking about the Buffalo Bills and their 17-year playoff absence. Every week we're going to do a deep dive on a specific year of those 17 years. This year the calendar turns to 2012. I'm Prescott Rossi. He's Thad Brown, and we brought the good Drought boy back once again, Ryan Nagelhout, from the Drought Cast. Follow him on Twitter at Ryan Nagelhout. You can listen to his podcast. Really the inspiration for what we do.
Spell Nagelhout, just way around.
Nagelhout.
And in post, I will put in Nagelhout. And it'll
oh, wow.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
Technology.
Yeah, exactly. What an age we live in. Fellas, we turn to 2012, and the first real news of this season actually doesn't happen until a few months into 2012, when on March 5th, the Bills re-signed Stevie Johnson.
Everybody in this league who comes in, they want to see, what's going to happen in free agency and all that, but, I mean, me personally, that would have been cool, but I know where I wanted to be, so it wouldn't have made any sense to go see, this team wanted me, that team wanted me. It doesn't matter, what's the point of looking at that if you know where you want to be, and this is where I wanted to be.
One of our main goals is to keep guys like him, and took a long time. Probably was going to get done because Steve always said he wanted to be here, and we always said we wanted him.
Obviously, he's a very talented receiver, the penalties notwithstanding, but the thoughts that, all right, the Bills have inked Stevie Johnson. He is back at least for one more year. Of course, it's a 5-year deal.
He was a unique guy in that he was a lightning rod, but not so much like most receivers would be like a T.O. kind of thing for things he said or, things he did off the field that might cause locker room problems. He was a lightning rod for, is this guy really worth being a number one receiver? I remember having many debates about, and I was always pro Stevie, about whether this guy was the one you wanted to be as your number one receiver. And the penalties were a part of that too, but just whether or not he was talented enough to do it. There was a part of the contract that was 7th round pick makes good. It made everybody feel, everybody likes that underdog story. Stevie was that. But whether you wanted to commit that money to that guy and making him your number one receiver, they were kind of forced into trading Lee Evans away the year before. But whether he merited that was a bit of a hot button discussion when it came to the Bills, that season and the prior season and the offseason too.
Yeah, to me it seemed like it was a move they sort of had to make just because they got rid of Lee Evans, and they were very high on like Donald Jones or someone like that, and they didn't have very good years. And there was nobody else in the receiving corps really that stood out other than Johnson. But there were things at the end of last season that were alarming. There was the Jets game, the Plexico Burress celebration. There was again the celebration at the last game he got benched.
Yeah.
There was some talk about that, and people had sort of soured on him in that regard. But at the end of the day, he caught balls. You kind of had there wasn't a you're going to go get someone in the draft. What's it seemed like they needed that.
What's the alternative?
Yeah, they needed that piece to be in place just because they have to keep moving. So.
Free agency starts a week later, and that's when it begins.
Yes.
The 3 longest days, probably not, but up there, the 3 longest days of my career. Tuesday, March 13th, as free agency begins at 4 o'clock, the Bills announce that Mario Williams is in town.
The NFL free agency window opened at 4 p.m. today. The Bills are not sitting idle. Houston Texans prize defensive end Mario Williams, one of the top free agents out there, in Buffalo tonight to talk with the Bills, but reports coming out in the last couple minutes have indicated he may leave Buffalo without agreeing to a deal, even though we've been hearing all along that the Bills were prepared to make him the richest player in the NFL, defensive player. According to reports just minutes ago that we've taken in, he may be leaving Buffalo without a deal in hand. That is not a good sign for the Bills.
And he's going out to dinner with Russ Brandon, Buddy Nix, Dave Wannstedt, the new defensive coordinator, Kyle Williams, and Chan Gailey. For me, I just remember thinking, and I'm new at this, I had just come to News 8 and moved to Rochester the December before this, so not even 4 months. Okay, wow. The biggest fish on the free agent market is Mario Williams, and the Bills are they're not hiding it at all. They are going all in on Mario. I was impressed But I had very little exposure to the Bills at this time. You, Thad, with multiple years covering the Buffalo Bills. Your thoughts as Mario is the target for the Bills front office?
This is new.
Yeah.
This is different. This is, wow, the Bills are going to go not only hard into free agency, but they're going to go after the big tamale. And a guy who, not just, this wasn't T.O., let's make a big splash and make attention. This was a guy that, we thought could be a defensive and a scheme-changing guy. This was someone you had to game plan for, not like people we've talked about in the past, Aaron Schobel, Paul Posluszny. This was a legit, franchise-changing defensive player that, was not someone that Buffalo ever could recruit, dollars, aside. So that was the reaction. I think even the first day when he visited, I don't know if many of us took it seriously, that signing could be a possibility, even though in general, if a free agent shows up in your city, you should be considered a front runner to land him. Yeah,
it was surprising that they were even in the conversation about this, because that's not a thing they do. They don't have the money to do that. They don't have the allure. Obviously, they don't have the success to attract anybody here, but they went all in on him. They named a steak after him at the restaurant that they went to. I've seen it on the menu. It's real. It might still be there. Maybe not anymore.
Probably not anymore.
But this was a very serious push, and it surprised a lot of people that it could even be a thing that this team could do, and with good reason.
To this point, the highest salary they had spent on a player on free agency was $49 million for Derek Dockery in 2007.
Which worked out great.
Yeah, which was just a fantastic move all around. And so just to, the Bills at this point, I would say they are as irrelevant as it gets going into 2012. 2 seasons with Chan Gailey, a 4-12 season and a 6-10 season following 3 seasons from Dick Gerard. I mean, the Bills could not be football Siberia more than at this time in March of 2012. So to make a splash like this, even if they didn't land Mario Williams, was like, okay, well, there's an intent to bring this team out of the cellar by hook or by crook, even if they don't land Mario Williams. Well, March 14th, Williams is at One Bills Drive the whole day, meeting with Knicks. His fiance flies in. Well, that's an interesting decision. You probably don't want to bring the family in if you're just going to leave town the next day. And I remember, for me, John Kutchko, who we all know and love, told me the night before, go to One Bills Drive, just spend the whole day there. I'm like, what to get what? Just whatever you get. I'm like, but there's nothing. If he doesn't, I can't go in the meeting room. Like, where do you want me to be? It's like, just hang out in the parking lot, go in the meeting room, see if there's anyone around, and just kind of be there. And I spent the whole day at One Bills Drive basically refreshing Twitter and then just trying to find any breadcrumbs that would signify that Mario Williams was here. We are in full-on Mario watch.
We have been here all afternoon, and I was talking with some colleagues a short while ago, and never have we seen a big-time free agent remain in one place pretty much and not sign. We know this. Mario Williams is still here on the grounds at One Bills Drive in Orchard Park. He's inside the Bills' offices. He is not yet signed that we know of on the dotted line. It is mission number 1 for the Bills football team to get this deal done tonight without fail. Now, Williams arrived here yesterday afternoon. He's been here about 24 hours. The team wined and dined him. He is the prize free agent other than Peyton Manning in this free agent market. And if the Bills are going to be a legitimate contender, and they know this, they have to get this deal consummated in the next couple of hours. Because if he leaves here without a deal, the consensus among so-called experts here is that if he's not signed tonight, it doesn't get done. They lose out, and this would be a PR fiasco. So the good news right now, and we're going to try to look at it from the Bills fan standpoint, the good news is he is still here. Talks are ongoing, and the Bills have pulled out all the stops. I mean, Mario's fiancée came in this afternoon, looked around the city, according to reports, met with some of the Bills players' wives. The Bills are doing everything they can on selling him to become a Buffalo Bill and to lead this franchise out of the cellar that has been in since the 2000 season. We are not going anywhere. We're staying here every step of the way. Follow me, please, on Twitter at John_Kutchko. Been very active on Twitter today, and we'll try to sift out what's going on. But it is a fluid situation, to say the least. We're covering it for you from all angles.
I think I was in Cleveland or Pittsburgh with the Syracuse basketball team for the first 2 rounds of the tournament. And I can never.
That was the Fab Mello team.
Yes, and I was never more enthralled to be out of Bill's news cycle than I was those 3 days watching all of you guys. I wouldn't refresh Twitter. I'd refresh every hour. Oh, they're still there? Oh, too bad. Back to eating my media lunch from the Syracuse basketball tournament. Yeah,
and watching a March Madness game from courtside.
Yes. Yeah. So it really
game.
terrible. It was, I wish I was with you guys.
Oh, it was a real hoot. The following day, day 3 of Mario Watch continues. Chris Mortensen reports a presser is scheduled for 1:30 in the afternoon.
This is the best part.
Imminent. Here we go. Mario Williams is joining the Buffalo Bills. So everybody get your cameras ready. 1:30 will be here before you know it. So we're in Orchard Park. We're ready. We're in the Bills media room. Just bring him out. Let's get that released. Let's bring Mario Williams out. And it's 2 o'clock. Okay. It's 2:30. 3 o'clock. Oh, God. What is happening? Why have we heard nothing? Where is Mario Williams?
See, with a press conference, being a half hour late is not crazy. You get past a half hour, you get to an hour, then something bad has happened. Yeah.
What are we doing? Now it's 3:30, and did he leave? Did he get cold feet? Everyone is reporting that Mario Williams has signed with the Buffalo Bills, and now everyone's wondering, why have they not had a press conference? Where are the Bills on this? Then at 4 o'clock, the Buffalo Bills send out a release that they have officially signed Mario Williams and that the press conference is in 10 minutes. And so we just scrambled in the media room at One Bills Drive and got everything ready, and away we went as Mario Williams signs a big deal, a 6-year deal, $96 million, the highest paid player in the NFL, blows out any Bills free agency contracts in team history.
After 3 days of courtship and painstaking negotiation sessions, the Bills finally landed their guy today, making defensive end Mario Williams the highest paid player defensively in the NFL. Prescott Rossi joins us live by way of satellite from One Bills Drive. Prescott, take it away.
Thank you, John. It was a long wait for Mario Williams. The press conference was originally scheduled for 1:30, then 1:45, then after 4 o'clock. But with $96 million going to Mario Williams, you got to make sure all those I's are dotted, T's are crossed. But Mario Williams is a Buffalo Bill. He's excited for the challenge of turning around a franchise that hasn't reached the postseason since 2000.
I mean, I'm just so excited to come here and to see the city and like Buddy said, it's one of those things where you hear so much about, the living here and everything until you actually get here and see what's here and see what's in front of you and see the fans and everything that this great city has to offer. It definitely got the message across.
I just want to tell you it's an exciting day for us. For our football team, we got a lot better. For our organization, it's been a long day or a long 2 days, but it's worth the wait.
It was refreshing just to see the Bills spend that kind of money. It made them feel like a real NFL team for the first time in years. And he helped on the field. Their defense was bad. Yep. He was going to make the defense better. And, any doubts about the signing, I don't think anybody had any. I remember the first time I saw Mario at the first minicamp practice when veterans showed up. He looked different than any other NFL player I'd ever seen. I mean, I had seen bigger guys. I had seen larger guys in terms of mass. This guy, he looked like a sculpture, you know? And he was not just a little wide receiver that had been, sculpted together. This was a Greek god that had come into a Bills uniform. And you could tell why everyone was enamored with him at the draft, after the draft, in free agency. Just when he put on a uniform, he looked like a guy that would change a game.
Williams is excited about the possibility of turning around a defense that was ranked 26th in the NFL last season.
You don't get many chances like this and opportunities to come in and be the guy who, can help the team get across the hump. And that's definitely what I'm here for. My whole intention is to come here and work with guys like Cal and Darius and make this thing happen. I feel like it's a great opportunity for myself and the team and for us to succeed and get better.
For the longest time, there was never any question. I mean, he was signed and was picked before the Texans actually had the draft pick. I mean, it was so clear that he was the guy that should be there. It was so clear that he was the number one, target in free agency. And they put the money, like you said, where they should have put it because the defense still struggled. They brought in Darius. That was the right move as well. But they still had a long way to go there, and that was it. He was the right pick for sure. So,
a couple days later, Russ Brandon in an interview with WGR says the team has added 1,400 season tickets, and this is coming off years where blackouts are routinely an issue in November and December, and now you're seeing the season ticket base grow after so many bad years, and you're seeing the impact of Mario Williams. And the first game's not for another 5 months with this Bills team. Then in free agency, the Bills, they have one swing and a connection. Now they have a swing and miss, because on March 21st, the Bills signed Mark Anderson, defensive end, to a 4-year, $27.5 million contract after a 10-sack season with New England. The Bills have not learned their lesson that if Bill Belichick has no time for this player, you need to avoid them as well. Yeah. Because Mark Anderson did not make an impact in 2012.
Yeah, he was thought as a guy that could be like the lesser version of Mario. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot lesser.
Put him on the other side.
He
of
was
the
supposed
line.
to be an impact player.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was supposed to be, wow, we have Mario and this other guy who's going to be great with Mario and Darius on the other side.
Yeah,
no
10 sacks in New England.
No one's going to block him, so he's going to be fine. That was the thinking, and yeah, he was nothing.
He did not get a steak named after him.
Bottom line.
No stakes for Mark Anderson. The NFL Draft, Thursday, April 26th. The Bills have the 10th overall pick, and so, they have their guys at the Bills' defensive line. Now they look at the secondary, especially after losing Whitner, and guys are getting kind of older. Terrence McGee's been with the team for a long time. Drayton Florence, who knows what his contract situation is going to be. They draft Stephon Gilmore, defensive back out of South Carolina. I know, Thad, you were at the draft that year in New York City. Just the immediate reaction to the Gilmore pick at number 10.
Solid pick. Yeah. Not spectacular. Not blowing anybody away. You know, I remember thinking, I don't remember who the choices were. I had other guys on my list then, but wasn't bothered by Gilmore.
I'm happy the Buffalo Bills picked me, and they're going to be happy with their decision.
There's a guy in that division that has owned the AFC East for the last decade, Tom Brady.
He's a great quarterback. Like I said, can't take nothing from him, but I got to prove myself. This is only a start right here.
Look into the camera, and there's a lot of Bills fans in Western New York, particularly in Rochester. What's your message to them tonight?
Go Bills.
You know, the thing with him was immediately, you get to do the interview with him right away after he's picked down there in New York City. And right away, you could tell this was not going to be a loquacious individual for the Bills.
Yeah.
He was very, kept to himself, quiet speaker. And, I thought from a media point of view, this might be a pain in the neck to talk to over the years. And for the most part, he was, although the more he got comfortable, the more he was willing to say things later in his Bills career. But at the time, he was just not a media presence guy. I remember thinking, he better be good because no one's going to fall in love with this guy in terms of how he is in front of a microphone.
Yeah, he didn't say much. That's a lot of the picks that would come in. I mean, Lynch is probably the most famous example, is that he was bombastic and could talk, and you could be excited about him. And Spiller again is another example. And then you kind of got to it's a position they needed to get somebody in there for, but it certainly wasn't exciting in any way. It was just like, okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. I didn't have to talk to him, so I was fine with it.
The numbers look good. He had good combine numbers. It's funny bringing it back to the present. Tre'Davious White gets drafted in 2017, and I was in Philadelphia for that draft. And this is a dude you could talk to all night. I mean, this is just a guy that has a lot to say. He's intelligent. His story is obviously very inspiring, and he just speaks very well. And so in this business, you come across so many different people. It's the people that kind of stand out, you almost kind of root for. Tre'Davious White just seems to check all the boxes of like a good person. And you obviously don't know these people, but you kind of pull for Tre'Davious White. Whereas Stephon Gilmore, you don't know anything about him. So who is this guy? And so I totally get where you were coming from with that. So the second round, the Bills have the 41st pick. They take Cordy Glenn, a massive human being, in a different way, though, from Mario Williams. 6'6", 345 pounds, out of Georgia. And I know we can do this every year. Bobby Wagner goes to Seattle 6 picks later. And, a couple all-pros. He's a linebacker. Bills could use a linebacker. But I remember at the time thought the Cordy Glenn pick was actually better than the Gilmore pick.
It might have been. And the question there was, could he play tackle? He came out of college as a guy who was projected to be guard. And you're thinking, if the Bills are going to spend that pick, he needs to be a tackle. And a lot of people thought he could be. And as it turns out, he's been a very fine left tackle for a long time.
Yeah. Then in the third round, the Bills have the nicest pick in the draft, pick 69. They take T.J. Graham, wide receiver, out of NC State. They traded up 2 spots to even get this pick. And while this is going on, and I mentioned Bobby Wagner, that those same Seattle Seahawks are sitting in their war room sweating bullets that the Bills are going to take a quarterback with this third-round pick because Fitzpatrick is, yes, he got this big contract back in 2011, but they know what the ceiling is. Everyone sees what his ceiling is. And the Seattle Seahawks, they don't really have a quarterback. So they're thinking, and they've said this. They said that their biggest fear for them when they had pick 75 was the Bills at pick 71, then 69, taking a quarterback. They didn't. They took TJ Graham, and that left Russell Wilson available for the Seahawks at pick 75. And I remember watching Russell Wilson at Wisconsin and thinking he was a really talented quarterback. Didn't think he would become, the Pro Bowl and Super Bowl winning quarterback he's become. But the fact that the Bills passed on Russell to take TJ Graham, a guy where we've seen through the drought they get enamored with some kind of thing that a guy is really good at. And in this case, TJ Graham is lightning quick. Nobody knew if he could actually play football, but he was just fast. And to me, and we've said this throughout the drought, the Bills' inability to draft well is the single reason why there have been 17 years without a playoff appearance. And so, I don't remember being particularly impressed with the TJ Graham pick. Didn't think Russell Wilson would become great, but your thoughts, fellas, just as the Bills go for another gimmick player, this time in a wide receiver.
I hated the TJ Graham pick because I was tired of the small, fast receiver.
Mm-hmm.
This was
Roscoe Parishes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This was a league being dominated by a larger receiver. 6'4". Give me 6'4". Give me a guy that can go up in the air, win jump balls. And the Bills continually wanted to go smaller. And even Lee Evans wasn't 6 foot. Stevie Johnson was barely 6 foot. They haven't really had an integral receiver bigger than 6 foot since Eric Moulds. And they go with TJ Graham, who's 5'9". And, with Graham, over the years having talked to him, he was a really smart guy. Yeah. Incredibly intelligent. And I always thought he was too smart for his own good because I felt like he would think too much and not just play the game. And that's what caused him to drop balls and be in the wrong spot. Whatever. Regardless, at the time, I hated the pick because I was tired of that type of receiver playing in Buffalo.
Well, and they got burned by going after a big guy in James Hardy, which, maybe they decided to go away from that. But again, that was just a miss. And the thing that I think about a lot when I go through these games and these drafts, and I think about why the Bills are where they are and have been there for so long, is no one's trying to be bad. Nobody wants to fail. But there are these little moments where, you choose a direction that is the wrong way to go. And, the argument for taking, Russell Wilson there is that, you have a guy who has a big contract, and he was not exactly projected to be a guy who's going to start right away. He did, but there was a lot of talk. He's going to be behind somebody. He's going to, you have some time, you develop him. Bills had a perfect situation for that, really, because if you wanted Fitzpatrick to play and you say, hey, you pick him, you go to the podium and you say, this is insurance for us. We want to make sure we have this position where it's locked down, and then you give your quarterback a vote of confidence immediately, and it's fine. There'll be some talk. It's going to happen, but you have a plan in place. And instead, you have to address the immediate need of the fact that you don't really have anybody other than Stevie Johnson who can catch the ball. Right. And they did it poorly, and that's how it goes. This is how you stack all of these things up, and then you're not making the playoffs.
Even Russell Wilson that season, they may have been sweating bullets to get him, but they started off training camp. He was in a three-way battle with, I think, Charlie Whitehurst, Tavares Jackson. Yep. So they didn't even give him a leg up to be the second quarterback, let alone the first.
Right. And even if the Bills draft him, and to your point, if Fitz is the starter, Russell Wilson's competing with Tyler Thigpen. He has an opportunity to.
On paper, the Buffalo situation was a whole lot better than the Seattle situation for Russell Wilson.
Right.
Well, that's not how, of course, the cookie crumbles. In the fourth round, the Bills take Nigel Bradham, linebacker out of Florida State, and Ron Brooks, a defensive back out of LSU. Just happens to be another defensive back who's also out there at the time that they don't take, and that would be Josh Norman, who goes to the Carolina Panthers in the fifth round. And you go, You take a position of need, and it's just the wrong guy at the same position, and you see another team make this pick, and you see, obviously, down the road what happens after that. So after the draft, because of the Bills drafting Stephon Gilmore, they have released Drayton Florence to kind of remove some of the logjam in that secondary. Fred Jackson, he gets a contract extension, 2 years, $8.7 million, highly deserved. I would argue probably deserves more money, considering how well he played. And we talked about the backup quarterback role. Vince Young is signed to a contract to compete with Tyler Thigpen for the backup role. And I remember when this happened, because I just happened to be home, and seeing the release and press conference in like an hour and 40 minutes. And I was at home, and it was in the morning. I was just kind of hanging out, eating breakfast, hanging out, and then jumping in the shower, taking a 6-minute shower, throwing on clothes, getting in the car, driving as responsibly as possible to One Bills Drive in Orchard Park, and getting into the media room with maybe 35 seconds to spare for Vince Young.
Yes. who was even then obviously on his last opportunity in the NFL. Yeah.
And so for me, did
John send you that? I didn't.
Oh, he sure did.
Okay.
It was a Friday, but yeah. I just remember, like, I'm doing all of this for the backup quarterback. And also, how many teams have press conferences for backup QBs?
This was the same year the Jets had the Tim Tebow backup press conference, wasn't it? Or was it? No, it was probably the next year.
No, Tebow joins the Jets in 2012.
Okay, yeah. So probably pretty close to the Tebow press conference, yes.
So, and then on Tuesday, May 22nd, the Bills and Rogers Communications agree on a 5-year extension of the Toronto series to take them to 2017. And, I mean, obviously we know what happens in the interim, but, man, if we're still talking about Toronto at this point in reality,
season.
Oh my God. So in training camp, Sean Merriman released. The experiment hasn't worked. Terrell Troop goes on injured reserve. He's still recovering from back surgery that he suffered during training camp the year before. And now, obviously, the Troop is a bust, and the pick after him is Rob Gronkowski. So these alarm bells, these sirens, these shouts are all over the place when it comes to Terrell Troop. And you know, his story emerges later that this is a guy that, you know, went through serious health problems and really tried to get back on the field, and just, you have, you know, discs in your back that have to be fused together. Like, that's not something you kind of, you know, roll up your sleeve and say, like, oh, put me in, coach. Like, no, that's not how it works. And then the backup role just becomes even more of a mess for the Buffalo Bills, as with those Seattle Seahawks, they trade a 7th-round pick for Tavares Jackson. And then they release Vince Young. So the Bills have made a total mess of their backup role in the offseason in 2012.
Yeah, you really can say that, you know, it's great to pick and choose where the Bills could have done things, but they did it to themselves in making the conversation about Russell Wilson when they go and trade for Jackson too. Yeah. Because they're fixing the problem for the Seahawks, that they had too many guys, and oh, by the way, maybe Wilson's our guy. They go and fix that problem, and they're like what? You shouldn't be on this side of the problem. You should be doing it the other way around. It was really upsetting all around, is what I'm saying.
Week 1 of the 2012 season, the Bills travel to the Meadowlands to take on the New York Jets. Thad, you were there as the Jets put up 48 on the new and improved Bills defense.
This game was a game that I saw as a Jets win from, like, the moment it came out on the schedule. Because you had to look at it from the Jets' point of view. The previous season they had gone 8-8, whatever it was. This was the year where they were in playoff contention at the end of the year, and they're playing the Dolphins, and then there's a fight literally in the huddle. Santonio Holmes is an issue with players. It looks like the team is totally dysfunctional. And coming off 2 AFC championships, the Jets, from the moment that happened, are looked at as one of the joke franchises of the NFL following the end of that huddle fight game. But they still have AFC championship level talent for the most part on it. You take that team and you beat them down for a whole offseason, and then you let them open up at home against a team like Buffalo, which scares nobody.
And has all this talk about how they're new and improved.
Exactly. Yeah. The Jets are going to release hellfire on Buffalo. So I told everyone that offseason the Bills are going to lose that game. They're going to be 0-1. I even thought it was going to be, the only thing that prevented me from coming out and saying it was going to be a 3-touchdown blowout is because the Jets offense did not score a single touchdown in the entire preseason. So they show up for that game with no touchdowns, and then bang, bang, first 2 drives is 14-0. But yeah, the only thing I regret about that game is not being more obvious about how I had that one completely read from the moment the schedule came out.
We made too many mistakes to win a game like that. You can't make mistakes and win games like that. And then I told them to not feel sorry for themselves and not to mope around. I was not going to tolerate that, and I wasn't going to allow that. We're going to be where we need to be. I fully believe that.
I can't turn the ball over 3 times and have us expect to dig ourselves out and win. And that's what happened today. You know, it's unacceptable. It's embarrassing, and you know, unfortunately, it happened in the first game.
Whenever you're down 21-0 or give up 21 points at the flip of a switch, we got to make turnovers to get back, because you can't bounce back from that. I don't care who you are and what's going on. The whole game plan changes.
I'm going to keep it in my head, for 24 hours and learn from it and try to go to work next week. But we got a lot to work on, and as long as we take it one day at a time, we'll be good.
The Jets led in this game 41-7. Yeah. In the third quarter.
40-28 is cosmetic. It was a beatdown of epic proportions.
And so, to me, I just remember thinking like, no, maybe things really haven't changed.
And you know what, the other part about that too is I told everyone, I said, the Jets are going to win that game. It's not a reflection of them being better than the Bills. They may end up having a worse record, but they are going to win that. They would have beaten, I think, the Patriots that day just because of what they had taken that entire offseason.
Week 2, the Bills have their home opener in the sunshine. This is the first game I ever covered as a member of the News 8 Sports Department. I did it! And the Bills come out and they kick the stuffing out of the Kansas City Chiefs, win 35-17. C.J. Spiller, 123 yards rushing, has 47 receiving yards as well. Very dynamic player. Stevie Johnson has a 49-yard touchdown that I totally gacked on. It's something I still think about 5 years later. Otis McKelvin has an 88-yard punt return for a touchdown. Bills win 35-17 to go 1-1. The following week there in Cleveland, C.J. Spiller has a 32-yard touchdown reception, but injures his shoulder in this game. And this was kind of the first we saw in Spiller's rookie year that, he didn't really have much of an impact at all. And considering he was a top 10 pick, that didn't look good at the time. And now we're seeing the injury bug show up with C.J. Spiller. I kind of remember, but with that, I mean, you have more of the context of the years prior. Just the thoughts of C.J. Spiller at the start of this 2012 season, who clearly has the capacity for explosive plays. But there's this inconsistency there, whether it's hitting the hole hard or, in this case, injuries.
It was even in that game. I mean, that 32-yard catch, if I remember correctly, was a screen pass that he pretty much did all the work on himself. So he had made an electric play in that game and then gets hurt immediately after. There was a whole lot of hope, and not just hope like, oh, we wish he's good. We need this guy to be good from a Bills point of view. And they needed him to be healthy too, and he just could not do it. I think this was the first major appearance of, wow, this injury thing is going to be a problem in this Cleveland game, because even though they had gotten beaten down by the Jets, 2-1, they had won their next 2 games impressively. There was a thought maybe they can get the offense going again, and if Mario's good, if the defense figures it out, the Bills might have something. But when CJ goes down, that was a huge negative for them.
The defense certainly made big plays when it had to. Ryan Fitzpatrick came through in the clutch with the pressure on, and the end result was the Bills' first road victory in a full season.
It was like, okay, this is tough, having CJ go down right now. But now it leads it on to Shard Choice and Johnny White. So I know we got guys that can fill a void of CJ.
It was nice for our defense to play the way they did, to be able to continue to make some stops there, and for us to get that ball back and make that long drive and get it in the end zone on Stevie's catch. That was a big part of the game right there.
We got some sacks, and we stopped the run, and we played great third down defense. And if you can do that, you're going to play pretty good defense in this league.
You got to be able to come back from ups and downs, regardless of what's happening on the field. It's this play, right now. This is what we have in front of us. So for us to go out and play ball with adversity striking, whether it's injuries or, like you said, moving the ball, them scoring, you gotta still be able to put your foot down, especially when it really counts. And I feel like that's what we did at the very end of this game.
He was a very frustrating player to watch play because he had these dynamic moments that really went, wow, he's the only guy in the field who can do that. And then you expect him to do it again. And the problem is that you have Spiller and then you have Jackson on the team, and only one of them can really be out there on the field at the same time, and you always are wondering, well, is he the right guy right now? Could CJ have hit that hole that time and made things happen? And then he gets hurt, and so then you don't have an option, and so then it's just Fred Jackson.
And you got to a point too later in the season where Changeli gets questioned about which running back is out there. Why are we using this guy and then putting this other guy in? They had the forced rotation, so yeah, it became more of a headache than it was worth.
Bills win 24-14. Mario Williams has his first sack as a member of the Buffalo Bills. 2 days later, September 25th, the Bills release Brian Moorman, punter extraordinaire. Fred Jackson tweets, WTF, released Moorman for what? Moorman was 30th in net punting average that season, but had been with the team for 12 years. And, we've spoken in the past about how there were Bills teams that might have had Brian Moorman as their best player. For me, I don't have really much of a history with Moorman. So just final thoughts on a guy that was here for a very long time, that was an all-pro punter at his peak, and the fact that there are considerations that Brian Moorman should be on the Wall of Fame for the Buffalo Bills, considering, he's a punter. You probably don't get a lot of recognition for those kind of guys, and now he is.
Will never be appreciated enough. Was a fan favorite, a great guy to deal with the locker room, just a good dude. I mean, a guy you'd want to hang out with. Excellent punter for a long time. At first, when it first happened, why are they doing this? Then you start looking at the numbers, especially not just that year, but the previous season. Things were declining enough to where you would see it was necessary. So it hurt, But from a football point of view, the game is still a business. It had to be done.
Yeah, people had his jersey. I mean, it says a lot. And also, it also says a lot.
He was also on the field quite a bit, though. So
well, that's true. I mean, he got a lot of optics, for sure. But it says a lot about this era of the Bills that, the one guy that really stands out, other than Eric Moulds, who should absolutely be on the wall. It's insane that he's not at this point. But it's Moorman that you're talking about and saying, the punter should probably be up there. That says a lot about this Bills team that, if you want to look at it cynically, yes, he was a great dude. And obviously he was a great player. He led the league. He had 2 years where he had the longest punt in the league, and I think he led the league once in net yardage. I was looking this up. I was wondering why they got rid of him 3 games in. And his numbers weren't that great that year.
Net punting was a problem. He was second last in the league. This touchdown return by the Jets week 1 didn't help. It was also reported that Moorman's struggles with directional punting were ultimately his undoing. Buddy Nick's not very specific about the move today.
It goes back to trying to upgrade at the position and looking at, looking down the road, and that's basically it. I wouldn't get into specifics, but with us, again, we evaluate everything every day, and especially every week after a game. We do that, and then we look at things and say, well, we can get better here, and that's what we try to do.
Week 4, New England Patriots come to town, and the joy and the elation from the 2011 game against the Patriots, it disappears.
Well, yes and no. I mean,
the Bills led in this game.
No, I know. I remember being on the field, and they throw a pass underneath to Donald Jones, and Donald Jones goes 68 yards for a touchdown. Jones says later this is the highlight of his career. And they're up 21-7. And there are palpable feelings of, are they going to pull this off again and win a 3rd game in a row at home, finish a 3-game winning streak at home against New England with a legit win over the Patriots? And if they had won that game, it wouldn't have been the same as the year before, where they were 3-0 and Fitzmagic, everybody thought the Bills were going to make the playoffs. But it would have been really good, and it would have given people a lot of reason to be optimistic. So for a little while, in the middle of that 3rd quarter at 21-7, there were senses on the sideline and in the stands of maybe the Bills are going to do it again. And then it didn't happen.
What happened?
The next 6 Patriot touchdowns, drives were touchdowns, yes. Tom Brady got angry, and Tom Brady took it out on the Bills.
It's these games are why fans are so negative about the team in general. You can go through the course of a game, the Bills can have a lead, and there's always somebody that says it won't last. No, I mean, come on, they look pretty good. It's going to be fine. Why are you being so negative? These games are why. Because that game was. Everything was fine. It was the boat's moving along. We're just going through the locks here. It's going to be okay. And then everything's on fire. And you don't. What happened?
Yes.
What changed? Was it a halftime adjustment? I don't understand what's going on. But
the Bills' ability to turn a good-looking game into a nuclear implosion, like that, is unequaled. And I mean, you talk about, that was just one game over 17 years. They just did it this last year against Oakland. It was the same game, even on a larger scale, because the Patriots scored a few more touchdowns. But it was the same thing.
Yeah.
They're cruising right along, and then it just combusts.
Yeah, and then when, and you and I, we've both been on the sideline for these types of games. You're just standing there wanting to scream just get 1 first down. Stop this. Just get 10 yards. And just take a moment to breathe, and we will ride out this storm. But nope, 3 and out, and then just touchdowns.
I just looked it up. I think the Patriots had 5 touchdowns in a row, and in between the Bills had 1 first down and an interception. That was all they had.
It's so amazing that the coaches change and the players are different, but the way that they lose these games is exactly the same. They can't do anything on offense. They're frustrated at every turn. When they get little glimmers of hope, I mean, they started the game really well. Sometimes they do that against Patriots, and then it just goes away so quickly. And you can feel the doldrums set in on the offensive side, and then the Patriots just start going. And there's so many games like this. I can't even. I don't remember this game at all because they're all one game. I'm serious. They're all. It's just that's that one gif of the guy with the cowbell who's drunk and it's just doing this. That's all of it. It's every single game. Yeah. They're all of them.
Yeah, I think about these 17 years, and at the beginning, even when Brady was there with the Patriots, the Bills played them close in a lot of these games. They're not 52-28s.
A lot of them.
And that comes toward the end when and so I think about how, at the beginning of the drought, the rivalry for the Bills is not with the Patriots, it's with the Dolphins. Mm-hmm. And at what point does that switch? Obviously the Dolphins take a turn and the Patriots become world beaters. And so just to see that rivalry at the beginning is like, oh, the Bills, you know, like they win a game at, you know, at Schaefer Stadium or whatever it was called then. And then like, oh, you're like, whatever. It's so uneventful, the early games against the Patriots. And now, like, Patriots week, that's the one you circle on the calendar, and then that's the one where you literally just get the stuffing knocked out of you for, in this case, only a half. But, you know, the final score is 52-28.
It's almost like they talk themselves, like you can talk yourself into that loss right away. They lose it as soon as the schedule comes out. And you look at it and you go, oh, well, they play on Thursday night, so they have 2 more days to prepare for the Bills. They're going to definitely get crushed in that one. And like, how many times you look at the schedule and like, oh, the Patriots are going to play the Bills off the bye, and the Bills will be on short rest. Great. They're also flying back from.
Right.
Like, why are they flying back from Sweden? I don't understand what's going on.
It just seems that way. I know.
And so Fitz 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Patriots win 52-28. The following week, October 7th. The 49ers welcome the Buffalo Bills. And as a kid, for me, growing up in Albany, New York, I was actually a 49ers fan, though Albany is a Giants city. When I was a kid, the Giants were really bad. This was post-Bill Parcells. The Jets were really bad. They were with Rich Kotite. So it was, okay, what teams are on TV every Sunday? The 49ers are. And so, the heroes of my childhood are Steve Young and Jerry Rice, and even Garrison Hurst down the road. And I loved Terrell Owens when he was with the 49ers. So, you know, as the low man on the totem pole, you get to have a pick of 1 or 2 road games that you really want to go to. And for me, I wanted to go to Candlestick Park. And oh man, did I not anticipate what was in store for me, as the 49ers accomplished league history, becoming the first team in the history of the NFL with 300 rushing yards and 300 passing yards in the same game, as the 49ers win 45-3. It was windy as hell, but it only seemed to matter to Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I've never seen a spanking like that in person before.
The worst back-to-back losses in Buffalo Bills history. Over 500 yards given up last weekend, over 600 yards today, and afterward, plenty of blame to go around.
Obviously something I'm not doing correctly with this football team in the second half, because we've been in 2 games in a row at halftime and have played extremely poorly, and that's as nice as you can put it in the second half. 2 weeks in a row.
You can't let these losses linger, and I don't know that I didn't feel that we came into this game still with some wounds from New England. I felt like we came into this game with a fresh mindset, and we just got beat bad by a better team today.
I mean, it's disappointing, you know. Like I said, we put in work, we have plays. It's just, you know, unfortunate situations that's going on throughout the game, and we got to be better and get over that.
Of course, it hurts when you lose, but you know, we'll collect ourselves, and you know, we're a big family. We'll stick together. We'll let everybody on the outside world tell us how bad we are right now, and don't pay it no mind. But come at the end of the year, they'll be ready to jump on our bandwagon.
This kind of sets you up for what would be a pretty lackluster Bills season. You know,
Yep.
there was going to be no true playoff hope. There was going to be no light at the end of the tunnel. This was going to be another season where looking at the draft and talking about quarterbacks for 2013 was going to be the priority once Thanksgiving rolled around.
The last 6 quarters of Bills football have been atrocious. They've been outscored 90-17. Granted, against the Patriots and 49ers, 2 of the league's best. But if the Bills want to be a playoff team, they need to learn to stop the upper-level teams in the NFL.
It's just a game. Next.
You think the fans
it's
just a game?
The fans doesn't think it's just a game, but of course they think it's just a game. But it's just tough right now. It's just tough on the team. It's tough on the fans. I mean, you know, it's just like that's a tough question. You know, some people don't want to answer, but it's life right now. We're gonna get better at it, and we're gonna work it out. It's just tough for everybody right now.
After last week, you know, I would have bet whatever that this team would have came out and played a lot better than we played today. Now going on 2 weeks and giving up that many run yards and giving up, you know, the plays that we gave up, you know, it's just disappointing and deflating.
We're giving up huge plays. You know, it's just, you know, we got to be accountable across the board. You know, from the first player to 11th player on defense. You know, we gotta figure out what in the world's going on, because I mean, we're giving up huge chunks of yardage at a given time, and we can't have that.
After this week's embarrassing defeat, the Bills are not heading back to Buffalo. They're on a flight to Phoenix, where they'll get ready for next Sunday's game against the Arizona Cardinals. On the other side, the Cardinals will have 10 days to get ready for the Bills. Remember, they played on Thursday and lost to the St. Louis Rams. With our Bills Roundup in San Francisco, I'm Prescott Rossi.
You know, there was genuine excitement before the season because of Williams and because of, they're addressing the defensive concerns. And then the way that they lost the games that they lost in this season, it's just completely wayward. Everything is gone. What is going on? Where are they going?
And Mario is quickly falling into kind of his Buffalo role as he may be the star, but he's not going to inspire anyone. This happened right from week one. They get manhandled in that Jets game. He literally got manhandled by a tackle whose name I can't remember and whose name is not relevant at all. But when he was asked about it, he talked about, I got held, I got refs didn't call any penalties. He pretty much whined like, someone who was a loser. And he was a loser on the scoreboard and in his own head-to-head matchup. But the fact that this guy, this superstar the Bills paid all this money to, week one gets completely taken out of the game by Wayne Hunter. I don't know why I throw the name.
Wow.
Thank you. Wayne Hunter gets taken out of the game by him and then doesn't own up to it, doesn't put a happy face on it, just complains about the officiating. I mean, he was a Buffalo Bill from day one. And it really, except for that era when the Bills D-line as a group was very good, he as an individual, it never really got better for him.
Week 6, after that shellacking by the 49ers, the Bills stay on the West Coast. They go to Arizona to take on the Cardinals, and this game is ugly. I mean, the Bills win 19-16, but it has these weird moments in it. Jay Feely kicks a 61-yard field goal with 1:09 left to tie the game. The Bills go 3 and out, because of course. Feely has a chance at a game winner in regulation from 38 yards and is blocked.
Yeah.
And just like, you hit a 61-yarder, and then not even a minute later, you couldn't do it again.
From 38. Yeah.
They checked the tape.
Yeah.
They got it right.
Yeah. Jarris Byrd has 2 interceptions. He has one in overtime off John Skelton. So that says all you need to know about Arizona at that time. It sets up Ryan Lindell for a chippy 25-yarder. The Bills win 19-16 in overtime. They're 3-3. Then they welcome the Tennessee Titans to Ralph Wilson Stadium. And Chris Johnson, who has well past his 2,000-yard season, still finds a way to turn back the clock against the Buffalo Bills as he rushes for 195 yards and 2 touchdowns, has an 83-yard score. And I think, Thad, you shot this one. Yes. And, what is your setup when you're watching the opposing team and you see their running back hit space and you know how fast he is and you're like, he's gone?
The long one, I don't think was quite like that. It was a dance, and I know the other part of it is he ran down the opposite sideline, and taking you inside behind the curtain a little bit. When we're on the sideline, we want the big highlights to come to our side of the field because you get a bigger picture, a clearer picture. He ran the 83 yards on the other sideline, which is awesome, but it isn't a great looking highlight. So I wasn't super excited about it. But the thing I remember about this game is that it was weird in that the Bills were down. Let's see, they were down 1. They scored a touchdown late in the third quarter and kicked the extra point to go up 6 instead of going for 2 to go up 7. And at the end of the game, that was the last points they would score, and they ended up losing by that 1 point. And Changeli got ripped for not going to 2. And I just remember thinking on the field at the time, no, I would not have gone for 2 there because the game was 28-27 at the end of the third quarter. There's going to be 15 more, each team's going to have 3 or 4 more scoring drives. There's no reason to go for 2 yet. And as it turns out, almost to what we were talking about before in the New England game, the Bills' offense is going up and down the field with Tennessee the whole game, and then when it matters most in the fourth quarter, they can't do anything, and Changeli is burned by not going for 2 on a third quarter touchdown when he probably didn't really have to.
Yeah, I attended this game with the guy I do the Droughtcast with, and his brother.
Shout out to Jason.
Yes, so we, how many times did a washed-up running back have those sort of games against the Bills? Yeah. And it was not like, well, he's really grinding it out there. It's like, oh, he hits the first level, and he hits the second level, and it's gone. Yeah. He's over. It was amazing, and it felt like they lost it in a dumb way. But really, I think you're right there. Is that in hindsight, there's a lot of ways to get mad at this Bills team, and there's a lot of things to get angry about with Changeli, but that maybe isn't the one. You should stop the run, maybe.
And also Ryan Fitzpatrick, don't throw an interception with 3 minutes to go in a 1-point game.
Yeah.
And that's what he did.
Oh, that was the dumb thing. All right.
Fitz has a real knack for just that real back-breaking interception. The one where he throws off his back foot and it's 5 yards short of the receiver and it's an easy pick and you just go like, just do the thing.
Anything but that, yeah.
It's just not a smart play.
Yeah, it's not a Harvard play, that's for sure. So the Bills go into the bye week at 3-4. Sean Merriman returns. Mario Williams has risk surgery. And of course, this is with the peak of the Bills PR stuff. Like, well, it's a procedure. So wouldn't that be surgery? Well, no, it's a procedure. What is the difference? And so just like the splitting hairs of that, I just remember like being there for those battles as, you know, the John Warrows, the Mark Gawns of the world are like, well, what is it? Did he have surgery? It's a procedure. Like, and of course the Bills get hit for this because Mario Williams at no point is on the injured list. And so they get fined $20,000 by the NFL. So maybe you should just be honest with these kinds of things.
Mario was a prickly guy to deal with from everybody's point of view, not just the media point of view. Everything about him was prickly, and that was the best way to describe it.
And then the following week, Mario Williams and his lovely demeanor go back to his old stomping ground, go to Houston as the Bills take on the Texans in Week 9. Mario has a sack. He takes down Matt Schaub. Arian Foster, of course, he is not washed at this time. He runs for 111 yards and a score. Fitz fumbles in the fourth quarter, so he doesn't have a pick. He just fumbles the ball away late in the game as the Texans win a snoozer, 21-9. Were you there for that one?
Yes, I remember going to do the Mario interview post-game because no matter what the score was, that was going to be the priority interview-wise. And, you know, he didn't want to talk about anything. He pretty much blew off every question and was a pain in the neck to deal with. You know, and this was going to be Mario for this season. And this was, you know, he had not had the impact the Bills had hoped right from day one. He certainly did not have the impact I'm sure, personally had hoped in that game against Houston. And, you know, the whole thing looked like a total bust, you know, halfway through the season. The numbers were going to be there. But in terms of wins and losses and real impact, Mario had next to zero in this season.
Yeah, the narrative shifted so quickly on him, the excitement that really gave way to it. And I think the media had a lot to do with it just because he was so difficult to deal with for you guys. I mean, you don't want it to affect what you do, but really, I mean, like, I think it's important to note that, you know, people say all the time, like, well, I don't care about the media. I don't care what this guy who's writing about the team says. But it affects how you view the team so much because that's the lens that you view it through. And if guys don't like the person that they're talking to every day, you're not going to like the person.
It's hard. It's probably more subconscious than conscious. But again, you know, right back to the Jets game. When you start out as a guy who was supposed to succeed in a big way and then failed in a big way, and your explanation for it is to blame the officials. Right. What are you supposed to write about that? You know, you're going to say, look, this is the worst way to handle it because it is. Right. And, you know, Mario spent a lot of time when it came to dealing with the media doing things the worst way. So it's hard, you know, not to write or report something different.
Week 10, Bills go on the road. I was at this game now in New England. My first time going to Gillette Stadium as a member of the media. And the Patriots are letting the Bills hang around in this one as though the Pats never trailed, Fred Jackson has 2 touchdowns, does have a fumble inside the New England 5-yard line, which is that's the 2012 Bills kind of in one play of just like, hey, here's Fred Jackson, he's really good, and he fumbles at the 3, you know, but Ryan Fitzpatrick has a chance to lead a game-winning drive in Foxborough, and I remember standing on the sideline after all of these games thinking like, Fitz has a chance to win a game in Foxborough right now, like this is actually going to happen. And then he throws an interception in the back of the end zone. And who knows what? I mean, TJ Graham took the fall for it. He said he ran the wrong route. I mean, it's a bad throw. And Devin McCourty is right there for New England to make the game-sealing interception. So the Patriots win 37-31. The Bills have lost 3 straight. They are now 3-6.
You can call the Bills cursed when it comes to this place. They move the ball. They got a lot of first downs, 35 of them. They scored points, but when it mattered most, they turned the ball over. And in the end, they leave the stadium with another defeat.
We are not good enough yet to not play extremely well and win. We've got to play extremely well to win. We're not there yet. There's some other teams that can do that. We're not. We're not one of those teams.
The only thing you can ask for as a quarterback is a chance at the end to win the game, and we had that today. We did. We held them to a field goal at the end there, and were able to drive down and have a couple shots at the end zone, but weren't able to get it done.
You know, the game plan we had, you know, the way our quarterback played, it just seemed like it was right for us to come back and win this game, but it didn't happen like that. Now we got to take it for what it is and get ready for Miami on Thursday.
I'm proud of our guys for the way they was opening up running lanes and, you know, giving our quarterbacks time to throw the ball, but at the same time, I'm very disappointed because we're 3-6 and now it's pretty much a must-win from here.
about this time is when the Thanksgiving line of demarcation became a media gold. I mean, if you could talk about the Bills relevantly, after Thanksgiving, it was a good year. That's what you're looking for. And this was one of the years where it was not. I mean, it was done. The Fitz contract from the year before was looking terrible. Chan Gailey's head was starting to be on a plate. That was the discussion now. And, in Buffalo, we had all too many discussions at this point. You think about, Gailey, we're on the fourth coach, so we're going through potentially the fourth coaching change. We're going to have, we're on our fourth GM. We're on our 18th quarterback or whatever it was. All these discussions have been had so many times before. It just wasn't interesting.
Yeah, and they got to 3-3, and I actually kind of forgot that they got there at this point because it never felt like they were close in this season.
This might be the most forgettable season of the drought.
Yeah, it's up there. It's really up there. I mean, considering that, and it's not even like the 4-12 year. You had people emerge like, ooh, Fred Jackson. Where did he come from? Stevie Johnson.
0-8 is something.
Exactly. With all those overtime losses, three straight losses by 9 points or whatever it was. And now you're in year 3 of Chan Gailey, so you know what he is, and you know what Fitzpatrick is, and this team is not good. And so now you have to play 6 more games knowing that there really isn't a whole lot. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. There's no anything.
What are the plays we talk about from this season? We're talking about a 2-point conversion in the third quarter, TJ Graham running the right or wrong route. I mean, these are itty-bitty specks on a Patriots season. But for the Bills, this is the whole 2012.
Yeah. Week 11, Thursday night game. Leotis McKelvin has a 79-yard punt return for a touchdown. Bills offense doesn't score. Ryan Lindell kicks 4 field goals.
Dolphins, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But the Bills beat the Dolphins 19-14 as Ryan Tannehill sacked 3 times, once by Mario Williams. Yeah. So Mario, I remember this game. Mario did play well in this game, and McKelvin's punt return is obviously the most explosive play from the game. But, the offense does nothing.
Right.
And so...
dreadful dull Thursday game. I remember that one.
This is when they're exiled to Thursday night games because that's where they put the bad teams because they have to put them in primetime somewhere. Yeah. So we'll put them there.
Well, and before Thanksgiving, you could maybe kind of sell it. Like, ooh, could a team save their season with a win on Thursday night?
That's what it was. Yeah. Was it Miami 3-6 that week too?
They were bad, I'm sure. Yeah. So the Bills, they win a game. They're 4-6. Week 12. They travel to Indianapolis. The Bills finally score an offensive touchdown in the fourth quarter, but the game is firmly in the hands of the Colts. The Colts win 20-13. Week 13, Jacksonville Jaguars. It's easy to right the wrongs when the Jags come to town, and they did that. Fred Jackson has 109 yards in the ground. C.J. Spiller, 77 yards and a touchdown. Fitz, 2 TDs and a pick. Bills win 34-18. They're 5-7. And this is the frustrating thing, is because you're watching a team that is bad, that there is no light at the end of the tunnel. And they're winning games
to kill your draft pick.
Your draft pick. Because that's the thing. And we mentioned, in the last episode that the Lions go to the postseason in 2011, thus cementing the Bills as the team with the longest playoff drought. Well, Lions had a winless season, and they have figured it out. Obviously, they haven't won a championship, but they have gotten to the playoffs. They got to the tournament.
That winless season, did that not net them Matt Stafford? Isn't that correct?
It absolutely did.
So,
0-16 got them Stafford.
You make the argument the Jets are trying to do that this year.
For sure.
The Jets might be 0-25 this year.
So 5-7 with the team going nowhere. I mean, the real treadmill of mediocrity is kind of at its peak, I think, with this Bills team.
You think about the 3 Duran years where what we have 7-9, 7-9, 7-9, 6-10, something like that.
Yeah.
And then with Gailey it was
4-12, 6-10, 6-10.
They're just spinning their wheels in this 8th to 12th draft spot where you cannot, be guaranteed to land franchise changers. Certainly not the quarterback spot.
And certainly not with this team's drafting.
Exactly.
So Week 14, December 9th, the Bills welcome the St. Louis Rams to Ralph Wilson Stadium. I was at this game, and all I remember from this game was Sam Bradford running off the field after it was over. I was there. I witnessed it. I don't know what happened. The Rams won 15-12.
15-12, yeah.
15-12. Wow. Yeah, that's what the sheet says. 15-12. Bills dropped to 5-8.
John Boy scoregami there or no? We should check that.
15-12. I would imagine there would be a game with only field goals.
Probably.
But it would be if it was like 13.
We'll have to check
13-4 or something like that would have been.
If you know what scoregami is, and 5 of you know what this is, that's interesting.
There's only 6 of us watching, it's in fairness. Week 15, the Bills go north of the border to Toronto to take on the Seattle Seahawks, and we talked about Russell Wilson, and he made the Bills pay on this game with 205 yards through the air, 92 yards on the ground, 3 rushing touchdowns. Thad, you were in Toronto. Seeing Russell Wilson then, did you think, oh my God, this is the future of the NFL?
No, because I had many doubts about whether or not that pattern of offense, the read option offense, would work. But my opinion of Russell Wilson was almost a 180 because he blew you away in that game.
Yeah.
You know, and he's played in Seattle. They weren't Seattle then, so you didn't see him a lot. And seeing that up close and seeing how impossible it was to defend, again, 50 points. I don't remember what Russell Wilson's season was like, but to me that feels like, at least here in the Northeast, that was the Russell Wilson coming out party. He was throwing a 50-burger on the Bills.
Remember, the whole idea of the Bills playing this Toronto series was to garner interest in the team in this market. Instead, they come here to the Rogers Center trying to expose their brand of NFL football, and they stunk up the joint.
I've thought about it. We don't have many games up here, and we know this is like a second home, and if we don't win when we get these opportunities, just for the fans' sake, it's like a downhill thing. We know that they'll end up losing hope.
Can't come up and criticize these fans for cheering the way that they do or how they view the game. You got to give these people something to be excited about, and most of those plays came from Seattle today.
You're angry at yourself because you didn't get the team ready to play at the level they needed to play to win the ball game. When they don't play, the buck stops with me.
My performance and our performance on offense, our performance on defense, we played poorly, and it reflects poorly on him, and I think it eats me up. I know it eats other guys up as well.
The most frustrating thing about watching those games is that there's nothing that the fans could do when they're at Ralph Wilson Stadium to stop Russell Wilson. That was going to happen. But also, where are they coming from? Bills fans are uninterested in this happening, and everyone else that they're playing is excited about it because it's Toronto and they can make that sort of thing happen. They're flying across the country, or they're somehow really big Seahawks fans in Toronto.
The Toronto series started out with the Bills fans being a neutral group at best and just decreased over the years. To the point of the Seattle game, they weren't even a factor. That game could have been played anywhere.
Yeah.
And Ryan, living in Niagara Falls, what is the dynamic any different living there because you are that half hour closer to Toronto than Buffalo and even further from Orchard Park, where perhaps maybe Toronto is okay, whatever. Toronto is what, an hour and a half?
Yeah, it's about an hour and a half with traffic. No, there was no interest in going up there for those games. The tickets were more expensive. It was not for Bills fans. There was a very clear, the initiative was very clear in what they were doing there. It didn't involve me. And that's speaking as somebody who, Ralph Wilson Stadium is 45 minutes from my house. So it's a drive as well. Like that was, going to those games when you're growing up was the furthest that you're going, away from your house unless you're going on a trip somewhere. And it was just a very different. Everything about that felt wrong. It wasn't just people on the border. It was most fans. Just such a weird. You understand why they did it, but then when you see the result, the results just kept coming, with the exception of the one Bears game in 2010 or the Washington game. It's just wow. I still can't believe that it happened, and I'm very glad that it's dead. It could have just ended, obviously, but it was very clear at that point that it was just a horrible idea.
Seahawks win 50-17. The Bills are eliminated from the playoffs for a 13th straight season. 5 days later, Friday, December 21st, the Bills in Erie County agree on a 10-year lease. The Bills' lease was set to expire in the summer of 2013. This lease includes a $400 million relocation fee for whatever prospective owner comes in after Ralph passes. He's 93 going on 94. So just a lot has been written and said about the lease, and there are still questions about the lease because it's not like it's been produced to the public. Only certain facets have been released. So, in one aspect, there's been so much discussion about the black cloud hanging over Buffalo and Western New York about whether the Bills would move to Toronto. And now it seems like Ralph has almost in a way left this parting gift for when he passes, that the Bills are at least going to be here for another 7 years. And if another owner comes in and wants to move, it's going to cost them nearly $500 million. Just the thoughts then that perhaps is the cloud being lifted now because this lease is at least locking the Bills in till 2020.
It was better. It was, like you said, hotly debated about how much better it really was. In the grand scheme, what's $500 million to an NFL owner? We talked about Terry Pegula being worth nearly $5 billion when he bought the Bills. And at that time, the concern was Los Angeles. So a possible LA owner, in people's imagination, was worth $6 to $10 to $8 billion, or more than that. So, was it really a deterrent? That was a big question. I think at the end of the day, This is an example of what Ralph Wilson wanted to do. He wanted to keep the Bills in Buffalo, or at least give Buffalo the best chance he could to keep the Bills. But he also toed the line between requiring his family to pick up and own the team after he was gone, and he did not want them to pay that huge estate tax that they would have had to have done if he had just passed the team down. So while he didn't want to force his family to own the team, he wanted to give Buffalo a chance. And this leash was, I think, as close as he could get to keeping the Bills in Buffalo without forcing the Wilson clan to hold on to the team.
Yeah, I think there's definitely there are two pretty significant camps in this, and that Ralph did all that he could, and he set up, he called it a parting gift, right? And I think most fans don't think it was much of a gift, really. It was just setting the framework for this is the exit strategy. This is how they pull the chute. And so it wasn't really much comfort, honestly. It was just that this is the timeline now. It's not just whenever he passes away. It's that, this is how it's going to play out. And it's not even really like, well, it's like pulling out your phone and setting like, oh, well, this is the date I'll have to actually worry about that. But I'm still going to think about it the whole time.
The new lease, signed by Governor Cuomo via satellite, Erie County and the Bills, includes a commitment to stay in Buffalo for at least 7 years. The Bills must pay a $400 million penalty to leave before that. In year 8, they can pay $28 million to buy out the remaining years of the deal.
Today is a monumental day because today is a significant step in securing the long-term future of the Buffalo Bills in Western New York.
The new lease agreement also includes $130 million for stadium renovations. The Bills will pay $35 million of that. Erie County and the state will pony up $95 million in taxpayer funds.
Those that would criticize the state and Erie County for investing taxpayer money to keep the Bills here would be the same ones criticizing if the Bills left. The Bills are a big part of the fabric of Western New York. They make great contributions in income tax, sales tax. They add to the economic fabric of the state.
The agreement also includes the creation of a new stadium working group to explore the potential for building a new stadium in the future. In Orchard Park, Mark Gruba, News 8.
At this time, Toronto media is coming to Bills practices, obviously covering games. And so, in the media room at One Bills Drive, you get to talk to them, you bounce things off them. And John Crick from the Toronto Sun, who's done a great job covering the Toronto series and just the Bills with that market in Toronto and Southern Ontario. And he always thought that the Bills were never going to move to Toronto because of the economics. A, because of the $400 million. But B, you'd have to build a stadium. And like Canadian government and politics is totally different from the United States when it comes to publicly financed stadiums, at least in Toronto and Ontario. So it would almost have to be totally privately funded. Plus you'd have to build facilities. So now you're looking at $400 million, plus a stadium which is probably going to be about $1 billion, not to mention the exchange rate from Canada, and team facilities. So you're looking at a $2 billion expenditure.
At minimum.
Not to mention also buying the team, which is going to cost, as the Bills went for $1.4 billion. So in that regard, just the economics weren't going to allow the Bills to move to Buffalo, even if Ralph dies the day after the lease is signed, because the money would just be so staggering, it wouldn't work.
Right, and all of that makes sense, but I think the thing that made it doing the Bills and Toronto series was insulting for a lot of fans, but it's also that there is an inferiority complex between Buffalo and Toronto. It might start with the Leafs. It might start with just the fact that it's the largest Canadian city and it's right over there. It's on the other side of Lake Ontario. Yeah. But when you go there, I'm a Red Sox fan. I would go to games at Rogers Center, and the parking lot that you're parking at, the next time you go back turns into a condo. Things happen so quickly there, and there's so much money in that market that yes, it's billions of dollars to make it happen, but it feels like it's possible there. It feels like that's a city that can go and do that. The thing that made you feel better is that, the fans didn't really care up there. That's the thing that was reassuring more than just like the economics wouldn't work.
To me, at that point when the lease was signed, I at that point had moved to, I don't think Toronto's the problem, I think LA is the problem. Right. To me, I would tell people at that point, if Ralph Wilson passes before there are teams in LA, then you get nervous in Buffalo. If you didn't know what it was. At that point, he could have lived to be 102. No one knew. Yeah. So if the NFL had filled that market and then the Bills were available, it would have been a whole lot better. Now, Terry Pegula solved all that for everybody, but it was LA then and not Toronto for me when that lease was signed.
The Bills played 2 more games in 2012.
But that's the story, right? Yeah. It matters so much because the team is lost, and even though they're bad and they've been bad for a long time, you still want them here.
Yeah.
Like it's
you want the NFL.
Yeah, you want the NFL. They're still your Bills.
Yeah, they're on the move now. Dolphins win in Week 16, 24-10. The Bills win in Week 17 over the Jets, Brian Scott has a 20-yard pick six on Mark Sanchez. I was there for that game too. Bills win 28-9, so 6-10 all over again. Yeah. December 31st, New Year's Eve, the day after that win against the New York Jets on Black Monday, Chan Gailey is fired along with the rest of the Bills coaching staff. And when you are the low man on the totem pole, you have to work Thanksgiving, you have to work Christmas, but you get New Year's off. And in that game against the Jets, I went up to a member of the Bills staff and just kind of elbowed him like, do we have to be here tomorrow? You know, just like, we're coming back after this game, right? Because you're going to Chan. Yeah. And they're like, well, it's locker cleanout day. And I'm like, yeah, no, I know. But really, like, yeah, you should stick around this afternoon. And I'm like, okay.
We didn't get the job done. I've been called 2 other times to get things turned around. Was able to do it. We weren't able to get this one done soon enough. And I understand that completely. I think that the next staff will have a great opportunity for success and to make this another great football franchise. This will probably be, and I say probably, but I think it will be, first place it's ever fired me that I'll pull for.
And Thad, you saw there an emotional Chan Gailey, like you said, fighting back tears. This job meant a lot to him. He took it very seriously, was very professional in our dealings with him over this 3-year period, but a 3-year period that certainly fell short. Now, the players met here this morning, cleaning out their lockers, meeting with the coaches before they depart for a long offseason, really had no clue if any of this was going down.
And when we talked to Kyle Williams, who was the only player left in the locker room when the news broke that Chan Gailey had been fired, Williams talked about his respect for really Coach Chan Gailey and the coach that came before him, Dick Duran. And I think you go up and down the Bills locker room, he was a well-respected coach. The problem was he just wasn't very good.
The 2 guys that I've had as head coaches are really, really solid, good men. They're great men to be with. Their yes is yes, their no is no. Obviously, we haven't won enough, which is what it's all about.
It happened in the locker room, happened quick. Yeah. You know, we were going to stand around and wonder if we're going to do a whole bunch of interviews with guys not knowing, and then they'd fire them later, and then all of our interviews would become irrelevant. But to the Bills' credit, from our point of view, Jerry Sullivan broke the news. We all saw it on our phones, and it was done, and the Bills moved forward, which is how it should have been handled. Yeah. And just, Ryan, your thoughts of the 3-year Chan Gailey experience with 4-12, 6-10, 6-10.
Well, it's not exactly memorable. I think this is the separation of like the charming Southern gentleman Voltron, though, because now Buddy Nixon, Chan Gailey are not the same. You know, one sticking around at least. And honestly, a lot of fans probably thought he shouldn't because the team hadn't really drafted all that well, and Williams, you know, which is a huge. I mean, the biggest stories about this team. You know, they weren't what we're talking about at the end of the year. You're talking about relocation. That really says a lot about this season and just how lost it was.
Yeah, I would say, Thad, just your final thoughts on 2012.
Like I said, one of the most forgettable seasons. Yeah. I look back at it and said, there's really nothing that happened here that we need to talk about. You know, there are things you're like, oh, yeah, I remember this, I remember that. But the Fitzmagic was draining. You know, the CJ Spiller was one of the few bright spots. But, like, you know, we've had to work to find good things to talk about for this year. We were full into whether or not the Bills were going to stay. And again, you know, who the new coach was going to be this time.
Yeah. And for me, it was really great because it was my first full season covering the team. And looking back in hindsight, like, wow, there's nothing here. Yeah. So, okay, moving forward into 2013, the Bills have to find a new head coach. And there's a man who's coaching a couple hours east of Buffalo. Seems to be doing a good job turning around a college program. Would he have the answer for the Buffalo Bills? To that, we turn to the next episode of Down and Drought.